Imagine a world where nutritious food is accessible to all and innovative markets lead the way for transforming food systems. That is impressive, right? Meet Betty Kibaara, the director of the Food Initiative at the Rockefeller Foundation, Africa's regional office.
That size of investment is about $48 billion.
That is huge.
It's a huge market.
Yeah.
Then now let's bring it to Africa. We have about...
That is worldwide, the statistic?
That's globally.
Yeah.
And then in Africa, we have about 64 million learners who are on school feeding programs.
Yeah.
And in a country like Kenya, you know, you're talking about roughly...
With a proven track record, she led the Yieldwise initiative, tackling food loss in key crops like maize and mangoes to uplift smallholder farmers' livelihoods. As a passionate advocate for food security and resilience against climate change, Betty believes that true transformation begins with fresh produce markets across Africa. Betty, your role as director for Rockefeller, you know, how did it come about? What is it that you do?
All right.
Yeah.
So at the Rockefeller Foundation, the food initiative focuses on increasing access, you know, for learners to have more nutritious foods, and also expand the school feeding programs. And you will ask, why is school feeding program important?
Yeah.
So school feeding program is important. And first, let me say that I'm a beneficiary of a school milk program, the Nyayo School Milk Program that
yes.
you know, started a long time ago under our former late president. And that milk really kept many of the students, including me of my generation, it kept them in school. And school feeding programs have come with many benefits. So first, they contribute to healthier diets for children, reducing levels of malnutrition.
Yeah.
They also contribute towards increasing enrollment for schools.
For schools, yeah.
For the learners, and also retaining the children in school, and also improving their cognitive functions. And above all, it presents a very big market opportunity for smallholder farmers. You know, and especially when the food is sourced locally. And in most cases, we have also seen girls benefit because they don't have to drop out of school to go and you know, help look for food. So in a nutshell, beyond the education outcomes, there are other societal and economic benefits of school feeding programs. And just to put it in the global context, globally, 418 million learners are now benefiting from school meals program. And to even think about that size of investment is about $48 billion.
That is huge.
It's a huge market.
Yeah.
Then now let's bring it to Africa. We have about...
That is worldwide?
Yeah, that's globally.
Yeah.
And then in Africa, we have about 64 million learners who are on school feeding programs.
Yeah.
And in a country like Kenya, you know, you're talking about roughly maybe 3 to 4 million learners. So that's the importance of the school feeding programs and the extent to which you know, all these countries are now signing up to what we call the Global School Meals Coalition. So about 2 years ago, there was a coalition of countries that came together and partners that came together to set up the Global School Meals Coalition. And in this coalition, countries sign up. They sign up to say we are committing to universal school meal program. So in Africa, we have about 40 countries. Globally, I think about 100 countries have signed up.
Yeah.
And then in Africa, roughly maybe 40. Kenya is one of them.
Yeah.
Uganda, we have Rwanda, Tanzania, and other countries. But the challenge comes in that...
just hold on before you give me the challenge.
Yes.
What is the model like? You know, when you talk about, you know, providing food for these learners, how do you work? What is your model of operation?
Yes. So our model of operation is that the foundation does not necessarily give money for food.
Yes.
But we try to trigger market systems development. What that means is that we want to do things so that the day we are not there to continue supporting, the government or private sector continues to do what the development partners are doing.
So to ensure sustainability.
To ensure sustainability.
Yeah.
So one of the things, just to give you an example, in Kenya, we have worked with the Ministry of Education and NACONEC, which is in charge of school meals program in Kenya.
Yeah.
Once they make that commitment, then we can help them come up with a roadmap. How do you move from 3 million learners to 10 million learners who actually should be benefiting from school feeding programs? So that's part of the technical assistance the foundation gives to governments. We may have governments that come to us and say, my domestic funding, I need to see how to increase the money for school feeding programs. How do I fund? Because it's one thing for you to make a commitment as a government,
Yes.
but the other thing is, how do you fund school meals programs? So in that case, we can work the government with the governments who express interest to us. Several of them have already expressed interest.
Yeah.
And then we help them work through. Maybe it could be debt swaps, it could be concessional financing, or it could be some form of revenue models. We have seen, for example, in different countries, like a country like Bolivia, they actually fund their school feeding programs from what they call a hydrocarbon tax, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We have other countries like Guatemala that says, okay, we are already doing 15% tax on goods. And then they take that part of that 15% and allocate it to school feeding programs.
Yeah.
So there are many financial instruments that we can use to support governments, and also maybe in some cases create tools or guidelines on how do you implement effective school feeding programs. So those are two things that we do. So, and then the other thing we do as a foundation is we acknowledge the role of the private sector in sustaining food system transformation. And then we ask ourselves, is there a role for the private sector they can play in school feeding programs? And a lot of these private sector partners are actually the ones who are supplying food to schools. So let me give you a very practical example. There are a number of companies that provide, let's say, flour, like maize flour, that they use for ugali or porridge. So we have set up what we call the Good Food Innovation Fund. Good Food Innovation Fund is a pocket of fund where we recognize that private sector needs favorable financing, and so would give X amount of money based on the company's ability to repay, and we'll give that in terms of returnable grant, so with almost zero interest rates.
Oh yeah.
And then these companies are doing some cool stuff. Let me give you an example of one company, Smart Logistics. So what they do, they know that it takes a long time to cook beans, maybe like 2 hours.
Yes.
So they'll pre-cook the bean, and they will
then freeze them.
Yeah, and then all you need to do is just add some little water and just boil it for maybe a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then we also have companies like the one called Shalem. They do ugali, which is ready to go. And then we also have other companies that are transitioning and developing a new product, because a lot of ourselves and our children, we are eating food which is very highly refined. For example, if you go to the supermarket, you find very refined flour. But we do have, if you think about growing up in the village, the flour which was eaten was the whole grain. You just take the maize as it is, and you grind it. It's just whole. It has the bran and the jam. And so, and that food the maize was very nutritious. And so what we are trying to do is, the foundation has established what we call the Fortified Whole Grain Alliance, which is an alliance of partners who are trying to help companies, countries to transition to fortified whole grain. So such companies that would want to support, then we can work with them. And we have several companies right now in Burundi, in Kenya, in Rwanda, who are already producing and processing and manufacturing flour, which is fortified and is whole. And
but then Betty,
I
would come back to you and ask you, how good is good food? Because we are living in a time and age where it's crazy, first of all, getting that food, leave alone getting good food.
Okay.
Yeah. Because times have changed. It's not the way it used to be like 30, 40 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think for me, what we define as good food is food which is nutritious, but also doing less damage to the environment. And when we talk about good food, I will still go back to, of course, veggies are good, and that's why we have in some of the program we're also encouraging the schools to do their own kitchen gardens. But back to the question on what is good food.
Yeah.
I would consider fortified whole grain as good food because it does more. It does better. It has good for us because you're eating the grain when it's whole, and it's more nutritious. Actually, studies have shown it's 5 times more nutritious. If you think about other good food, is like the biofortified beans. Part of the work that we are also supporting in Kenya is in partnership with Agra and Harvest Plus and other partners, is how do you also enhance the amount of iron and zinc in the beans that the children, the learners are eating. And for example, the high iron beans are quite interesting because a lot of people fail to eat beans because of
the
gas.
Yeah.
And this bean is found not to be having a lot of gas. Actually, they say it doesn't have gas and it cooks faster. And to the farmer, it's also a good bean because it's 20% more yielding. And I think thinking about also the role of beans in contributing to regenerating the soil.
Yes.
Once you plant bean today, assume this is 1 acre of land or 1 hectare of land. You plant the beans and you harvest the beans. Guess how much nitrogen is left in the soil?
In the soil.
40 kilograms.
That is
Can
lovely.
you imagine?
Yeah.
So that means the subsequent crop for a farmer is also going to be beneficial to them.
Yes.
And then, so back to also the question you asked about the good food. We have a lot of our food that we used to eat, which is almost getting forgotten, but now it's coming back. It's now being called opportunity crops. For example, millet. So in Murang'a County, we partnered with Food for Education and the government of Murang'a,
yes,
which wanted to start a porridge program for the schools. And so, based on feedback from the user, the parents and the learners, we came up with a 90-10 blend, that 90% maize and 10% millet. So right now more than 40, I would say 40,000 learners in Murang'a County are already consuming porridge, which is a mix of maize and millet. Do you know what that means to the value chain, working backwards? If you look at that population, and this maize and the millet is actually coming from our farmers. So in a nutshell, there is a whole set of what we call good food. In West Africa, I know I focus so much on East Africa, but in West Africa, we have also partnered with the World Food Program, and we are also working with in different countries. In Benin is one of our country, Ghana is our country of focus. And there we know we're also doing something around the fortified whole grain for maize, but they also focus a lot, their main food there is rice. And the same story of maize is still the same story of rice. A lot of rice is totally refined. White rice actually comes from brown rice. White rice is actually brown rice. We start with paddy, which is brown,
before we get to white.
And then it gets processed until it becomes white. And then in the process, you lose more than 28% of the grain in terms of the bran, and that goes towards feeding livestock. So in a nutshell, the livestock are feeding on the good part of our grains,
Now but this whole conversation, gets
So in a nutshell, in West Africa, we are also trying to work with WFP to get the learners to consume the unpolished parboiled rice. So in a nutshell, getting more natural state of food than the overly refined.
Someone
flour.
will be like, that means eating healthy is really expensive. Because speaking about fortified whole food, not everyone can afford that. From where you sit, I know you understand what I'm talking
No,
about.
I know,
Yeah.
but I would say it's actually a perception. When we've done studies and assessment on
Yes.
especially the maize, we have found it to be cost neutral. So once you go fortified whole grain, actually maybe the cost of fortification is like a shilling or thereabout. It's actually been shown scientifically it's actually cost neutral. So you're actually better. You don't lose. For businesses, they're not losing. It's actually cost neutral.
It's cost neutral.
Yes.
Speak to me a little bit about MSCs, SMSCs,
SMEs. Small
SMSCs,
and medium scale enterprises. Yes.
small, medium enterprises, micro enterprises.
Yes.
Speak to me about that insect project.
Okay, the insect project. Don't even get me there because I will talk until the cows come home.
Just try to make it
So I will
brief.
try and make it
Yes.
very, very short.
Yes.
So the Rockefeller Foundation has, being a champion for sustainable agriculture. So one of the ways is we started then asking ourselves, we know in other countries, in Europe and in the US,
Yes.
they have made significant progress in terms of the amount of waste which is collected and how you use that waste. Organic waste, that is waste from markets, whether it's avocado, sugarcane, whatever. In Africa, we generate 125 million metric tons of organic waste. In Nairobi here is about 3,000 metric tons a day. Where does that waste go? It just goes to the landfill. So you walk to the landfill, you see mango, oranges and all that.
Yeah.
But there is one interesting insect. It's called the black soldier fly. Looks like the normal fly, but it doesn't have a mouth. So even if it's domesticated, black soldier fly.
Yes.
Don't look at your hand that you are looking for it. You won't find it here.
I know.
But it looks just like a housefly.
Yeah.
So you introduce that.
Does it thrive in hot climates, in tropics, or what?
Well, hot climate is warm climate is better.
Yeah.
And so you domesticate it, so you'll have like kind of a greenhouse, and then you put the organic wastes in containers, or you can just put it on the floor, raised beds or something like that. And then once you introduce it, of course, it's now able to eat that the larvae. It lays eggs. I don't want to go into details, but it's able to convert that organic waste into the four stages of insect, from the insect, the egg, larva. So you harvest at the larvae stage. You harvest that. It's after about 11 days. You harvest the larvae, and then that goes towards. It's very good protein for animals. Goes towards feeding animals. Yeah.
How many lovers are you gonna? How many lovers for a cow to chew?
You'll be so surprised because about a ton of organic waste will give you about 300 kilo weight of a ton of organic waste will give you roughly between 150 and 300 kilograms of the larvae. And that goes towards and the demand is so high. I mean, like we did a study a while ago, about 2 years ago. The demand for the insects in Kenya was more than 70,000 metric tons. It's unbelievable. So once you harvest the larvae, then what is left is what you call frass fertilizer. It's organic fertilizer that is very nutritious for the crops, and it is said, we've done some assessment with the International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology, and we have found it has about 21 macronutrients. So once you apply it in the soil, then the crops actually really thrive. And so when we started this work, in a nutshell, you asked me about the SMEs. Who is doing this business? For us as the Rockefeller Foundation, we just came in to catalyze the system. So with some little funding, we supported a number of small and medium scale enterprises, and in partnership with IDRC and other partners, we've supported ISIPE to do what we call taking the technology from the lab, from the science to the land, where we have actual projects which are going on.
Which countries are doing this?
Kenya is one of the countries. There are more than 64 small and medium scale enterprises who are doing the black soldier fly and frass fertilizer. And then and we have also had to work around the ecosystem. It's not just the SMEs, but it's the ecosystem, the regulations that allow you to process and produce the insects are now in place in Rwanda, in Uganda. They are also there. And then at the continental level, we are working with the African Union to harmonize standards, so that if I'm doing black soldier fly and I have larvae from Kenya and they are well dried, well packaged, I can export them to West Africa. So in a nutshell, there is
package the larvae.
Oh, you can package the larvae. Hopefully, once we have the interregional trade,
Yes.
you can sell the larvae.
You can see how my mouth is still.
I know.
Okay.
By the way,
And I'm like,
let me explain to you.
Yes.
It's a real business. We have more than 64 companies right now in Kenya who are now trading, who are already selling the frass and the larvae, which has very high levels of protein. And just to give you an example, sometimes companies call me and ask me, can I get 40 metric tons of larvae per month?
Should start that business
No.
as well.
And
So
the youth love it.
in short,
the
they
youth
don't,
love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
In short, they don't go through 4 stages. Their stage gets cut at the larva stage.
No. At the larvae stage, you harvest the larvae, and then you allow, I think, 20% of the population to go and mate and become adults, and then the whole cycle continues. So I think, but for us, as the Rockefeller Foundation, what we are excited about is that we started this work like 5 years ago, this partnership. But as we continue, we are seeing very interesting model. Like there's one model very exciting. It's called the Chanzi model, which what they do is they go and because one of the biggest challenges is the cost of transporting the waste from point A to B for you to go and process it.
Yes.
But then we have companies now that have figured a model. Why can't I just pitch my company next to a waste processing
plant
unit,
or something? Yes.
So we have like Takataka Solution is one of the companies that collects waste from household, and then they separate the waste into organic waste. And then this company has now just pitched tent. Partnered with them, and then they're just having easy flow of raw materials from this company to the black soldier fly company. We're also seeing this model working very well for companies like let's say cake exporters who process a lot of juices and avocado. Have you ever asked yourself, where do they take their waste? All that waste. That waste can find a way into use for the black soldier fly.
I'm impressed. No,
and
I'm
let
really
me tell you another thing I love about the
SMEs.
SMEs. The SMEs who are doing work around the black soldier fly, I think about 40 or almost 50% of them are women. And they're young people. These are young people who are, I don't even think, most of them are between their 25 and 30.
Yeah.
Because they can also turn around money quickly. Yeah. You put your the organic waste and add the little larvae in there. In about 20-30 days, you already have finished
your harvesting.
Yeah. But it also requires, it's also a lot of science.
That's why I love science.
Yes.
If science can, solve solutions, and especially this sort of, problems, that is a handful of, everything.
Yes, and that's why when you mention science, that's why one of our key partners is ICIPE, the International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology, who are able now to provide the technical assistance to the SMEs.
Yes.
And do it in a way which is professional and which is scientific. As you'll see, like if you go online, you'll see ICIPE has really done a lot of publications. So that we're able to answer any scientific questions that come out.
I was really angry and furious that you didn't invite me to the event in Rwanda. But I think
African Food Systems
but I think after hearing, this insect initiative with the SMEs, I'm really happy.
Actually, one of the winners of it's called the Norman Borlaug Field Award is a good friend of mine called Dennis.
Send my congratulations
from ICIPE, who has been awarded, got an award because of the work that he has done on insects. So for me, I see, in a nutshell, I see insects as we think about, everyone is talking about sustainable farming.
Yes.
Agroecology, regenerative agriculture. I see there is opportunity for us to be able to not just focus on the inorganic fertilizer, the chemical fertilizer. But we need now to start bringing in the organic fertilizers. In the most recent, about a couple of months ago, when the continent held the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit, it was very interesting to see the recognition of the role of organic fertilizers. And I think for me, FRAS fertilizer is just one of it. I mean, we have many other different fertilizers, whether it's bokashi or the different fertilizers and biosolutions are coming up. It just gives that opportunity for us to be able to transition from the conventional farming to farming that also builds the soil. If you see soil where which has been applied with the FRAS fertilizer or bokashi or biochar and all that, you will see the soil is very different, and it has more microorganisms, and it's very nutritious. And the more nutrients our soils have, the more better they are going to produce better foods for us.
So you see, someone that used to hear about Rockefeller Foundation.
Yeah.
Years back, it was about offering scholarship to university students to further their education, of course. And I'm a very, serious proponent of education to the young people. Where did you take the scholarships to?
Yeah, that's. I think at that time it made sense that the Rockefeller Foundation invest in. We used to call them Rocky Docs.
Yes.
And these are, PhDs and masters students who go to the US and they studied, and now what we like about it is that now they have come back and they are in a position of power and they are making good decisions. We have so many of them in this country and all over the continent. But I think for us, what we do at the Rockefeller Foundation, we are at the cutting edge of science and innovation. We cannot continue funding the same thing. If you look, for example, when we were funding that work, there were maybe 2 universities in Kenya. Right now in Kenya, you can't even count. There could be like 100
every
universities.
county
Every county now, even in my village, they are starting a university. So I think then we think about the Rockefeller Foundation. Where are we best placing our catalytic capital? Are
you investing innovation in the young people?
Innovation with investing in the young people?
Yes. Speak to me a bit about innovation, young people, anything for them?
Innovation in young people, I think we try to blend in. We may not have something like this is for young people.
Yes.
But the Rockefeller Foundation, has a policy of being inclusive. So in our programming, we make sure that our programs are also helping women. For example, when you think about school feeding programs, a lot of those women who are employed in the schools are actually women. If you're thinking about the youth, I would say a lot of our work that we are supporting with SMEs, with insect-based feed work is really focusing on youth. But in a nutshell, the foundation tries to look for areas where we can risk with our capital and maybe less crowded areas where we can also make really a difference. Yeah.
Can you please share a personal, experience from your career or moments that really shaped, your passion for sustainable agriculture or agriculture in general?
Yeah, I think for me, I grew up in a farm and in eastern Kenya. And from when I was growing up, I saw my mother, struggle in the farm, a bit. Sometimes she had a market, sometimes she didn't have a market. And in some cases, the rains came, sometimes they didn't come. And I think deep in my heart, I felt like I want to do something. I want to do something for Africa that can really make a difference. And so that's why I pursued my degree in agribusiness management.
Yes.
And then after that, I went to the US and I studied agriculture and resource economics. And I think from then I have been working in food system transformation for, I would say, for two decades. And I've also done some interesting work like just a couple of years ago, we worked to reduce post-harvest losses, because a lot of food that is produced, about 30% of it never gets to the table. It's lost in the production system. So so my inspiration comes from my childhood, and I think personally I'm also wired. I love to help people, and I think for me, even having all this discussion about food system transformation, regenerative agriculture, is quite exciting, so that we are not just driving a food system which is not inclusive, and which is not doing more giving more benefit to the environment. So that's why I'm excited about agriculture, food system, and regenerative ag.
Yeah, most people talking about agriculture, they think about getting your hands dirty and all of that. They don't know how sophisticated agriculture has, grown to be, because it's from the labs and research centers to the field.
Yes.
And I think that is so interesting to hear.
Yeah.
However, food security is such a critical issue, not just in Africa. How is the Rockefeller Foundation ensuring that they solve this crisis, or what are they doing to help curb this problem?
So food security is a big problem. I know, for example, in Kenya, on average, like 4 million people, are almost permanently on food aid.
Yeah.
But what the Rockefeller Foundation is doing is back again to the school feeding programs.
Yes.
We want to encourage our communities to appreciate the local foods that we eat.
Yes.
And I'll give you a very good example. If you look at a lot of school feeding programs, food in most cases is actually imported into Africa. From Thailand, rice is imported, and so many other places. For that child in Makueni County, why does that child have to wait? We are talking about food security.
Yes.
That family is harvesting sorghum, is harvesting millet, but they are not considering it as food. So in the school feeding program, then you will go and find we have to get rice and beans. So one of the things the foundation is trying to do is, can we begin to make shifts in the way we eat our food? What is wrong with eating sorghum and millet, sorghum and beans for lunch? So we have piloted some of these foods. Those we are calling them opportunity crops.
Yes.
They used to be called orphaned crops, but now I'm told they're called opportunity crops.
Yes.
And
the ones that were regarded for the poor people.
Yeah, like sorghum, sorghum, millet, cowpeas, pigeon peas, and cassava. All these foods which are very rich, which are available within the communities. And so one of the program we are likely to be implementing with the Kenyan government, the Kenyan government has recognized that we need to value our local foods. So the Ministry of Education and NACONEC is the organization that does school feeding programs.
Yeah.
We want to test a model. It's called the aggregator model. Instead of schools receiving food and then buying food from wherever, importing and all that, the organizations then, the farmer aggregation are identified. And then they are, of course, going through the normal procurement system. They supply the locally available foods for school feeding programs. And I think for me, that's really going to be a game changer.
Yes.
In that the farmer will be growing their crops, knowing that this is where I'm going to sell my crop. They may not sell 100%, but if you know that 40% of your
market,
you have a ready market. So that's some work that we're going to be piloting in Eastern Kenya. So to answer your question, is appreciating that we have locally available foods and locally sourced food. And if we can start now to bring this food back to a system, then, and we also know that some of those foods which are locally grown and local sourcing, there are also foods which are they are drought resistant.
Crops,
Like the sorghum and the millets and the peas and the pigeon peas and so that we don't have to always depend on the imported products.
What
Yeah.
challenges have you faced, Betty,
Mhm.
in your career?
Oh, challenges I have faced in my career.
Yes.
Well, there are many challenges, and especially when you're working in the development space, and especially when you're not able to rally policies and influence policies, because for us, we are catalytic funders. We are not going to be in that space for long, and we are not giving free money.
Yes.
Free money. So we want to work with the private sector, so that they can sustain development after we have left the program. Or in some cases, you're also trying to change, or not really change, but contribute towards the policy process.
Or
And we
influence
know
policies.
influence policy.
Yeah.
But policies take time, and in some cases you can also have policy reversals, when
It didn't
a
work, so
new
we are taking it
government,
back. I
maybe
know.
a new government comes in, and maybe that's not the priority. And of course, in some cases, it's a question of scale. But we really try to make sure that when we are designing programs, you have that scale in mind, and the stakeholders are very, very important, especially working with government, anchoring our programming within governments, and bringing governments on board as early as we can, and not just also solving their problem, but it's us reaching out to government and finding out where are your pain points. And I'll
Yes.
give you one good example is right now we are talking about school feeding programs, but when we currently in Africa, we are losing about 7.5 million metric tons of wood as we cook for the children.
That's
So-
sad to hear.
Yeah, it's sad to hear.
Yeah.
So the question is, as we do the school feeding programs, can we also make sure that we are not doing more
Conserving the
damage
environment?
to the beautiful trees right
Yeah.
behind you? So in that case, we are very, very excited about Kenya, because Kenya is coming up with its strategy for clean cooking and e-cooking. Yeah? And so we can come in and see what kind of support, technical support, can we give to governments or the private sector
Yes.
to be able to make that transition. We know it's not going to be like you may not move directly from charcoal to e-cooking, cooking with electricity, but it could be a transition pathway. But we are very, very conscious that as we do our programming, we don't want to do more damage to the environment. So working with government, private sector, and being a thought leader partner
Yes.
with government and the private sector and other funders. We believe in very, very strong partnerships.
Tell me a little bit about your family, Betty.
Oh, my family! All right, that's so cool.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a mom of 3 lovely children.
Bless them.
Melody, who is 22. I have.
She's
yeah,
already
looking at me,
22?
she's 22. She's a big girl, finishing the university.
Uh-huh.
And then we have Sereria. He's a footballer. He's 18.
Yes.
And I have a little man there called Runchi Baraka. And of course, my husband. But I think as I talk about my children, it cannot just be about me. I am also a mentor of many young people.
Mhm.
So I have mentorship program for young professionals. And beside my regular job, I'm also a farmer. Like the things I'm saying, I'm practically
You're
I own a
practicing
farm.
them. Yeah.
Where I am specializing more on tree crops, because I still feel like cereal crops and all these other food crops are very good, but I think farmers could do more with diversified cropping system, and especially where you are incorporating
Sort
tree
of
crops.
mixed farming.
Farming, but towards high value crops.
Oh,
So
great.
I'm doing apples and avocado.
Hey, going to
And
school.
plantain, bananas.
Oh,
So
I've missed plantain.
You
Talking
miss
about
plantain?
Yeah.
So that's my family, and I also do a lot of charity work in the communities. Yeah.
Thank you. I know with you we could talk all day,
We
Betty.
can talk the
Yeah.
whole day, but this has really been exciting.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I look forward to inviting you to the Africa Food System Forum. This time, I'm not sure where it will be. Maybe West Africa. But please don't miss next time.
No,
It's
I'll not miss.
so
I'll
good.
not miss.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You have given me enough time to prepare and plan.
All right. Yeah, that's good.
Thanks so much,
Okay,
Betty.
all right.
Have yourself a good day.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
thanks for making the time to be
I'm
with me.
actually going to be speaking at a closing.
Oh, good.
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've done tremendous things.
yeah, yeah.
And it's
very
nice to
exciting
have
work.
people like you know,
Yeah.
within the community.
Yes, I love my job. Yeah, my job actually. I tell people my job aligns with my personal mission. So I'm naturally what do you call it? Like I love to give and I love charity work. But of course, yeah, I'm doing charity with a difference.
Yes.
But yeah, so
And the
I run
impact
my own
is
school
just
feeding.
great.
I supply food to schools and
That's
churches in
nice.
my community.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
love-
hardworking woman.
I'm hard working.
Yeah.
Yeah, Now, I'll invite you to my farm.
I'll be waiting.
I'd actually want to invite you to our farm.
I'll be waiting.
Yeah.
I'm a countryside girl, so
Countryside.
yeah.
Ah,
I love
You
hope-
don't look
yeah.
like countryside.
Come on, that's
If
why you.
this is what countryside looks like.
Countryside is cool.
Okay.
You should tell the young people.
Yes, countryside is cool. Yes. No, you should see me on a weekend at my farm. Yes.
I can
And
already envision that.
Yeah, there is money in soil. That's all I
There
can
is.
say.
There
There
is.
money in soil.
Yeah.